Okay, so I thought it might be a little bit beneficial if I make this really brief how to college video for you. This in no way, shape, or form covers all of the resources that are going to be available to you guys, but I thought I would bring the most common ones, or the ones that I think are most useful for students, or the ones that I think almost all students would be able to benefit from. So I think the most important one is counseling and psychological support. A large reason that people, especially freshmen and sophomores who are entering university, they tend to flop around a little bit that first year. They're struggling being an independent for the first time, as well as moving away from home, and trying to balance university and maybe work and social life, and trying to find that balance. It can be really stressful. Additionally, individuals tend to develop depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder around this age, so it makes it really difficult for transitioning for those individuals. And in order to combat that, universities have set up free counseling and psychological support for students. For the most part, universities use your student fees to cover it, so you've already paid for it. You just need to be able to use it. So I don't know every university in the state. I don't know what their specific guidelines are, but a lot of the universities have it set up for free for the students to utilize. And then it's only when you miss your appointment that you have to cover some kind of small fee for it. But it's set up primarily to help freshmen and sophomores to be able to acclimate to the college setting, be able to develop really healthy, mindful habits, and be able to really experience and enjoy the college setting without getting too overwhelmed. So I think it's an absolute wonderful resource for students, but a lot of them don't know that it exists. So I want to make sure that you guys are fully aware once you go to university, even if it's just a tough week or you're having a hard time with something, please utilize this. It will make it so much easier while you're there, and it'll really help you increase your experience at universities. Another really helpful tip is the writing centers and resume aids. So the writing centers and the resume, they can be in the same department. Some of them clump resume assistants in the Career Center, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But the writing centers are going to be a great resource, especially for that first year when you guys are taking all of your required English courses. You're able to go in and have them either help you even get started, help you with finding resources. They might send you to the library to be able to find different articles or journals to read if you're doing scholarly research on something. They'll be able to help kind of form the proper layout of the paper to make sure that it fits with the academic standards and MLA standards and everything. And I think it can be a little bit of a shift moving from high school writing to university writing, because the standards are definitely higher. And the writing centers are going to be a really great resource for you. I was in English as an undergrad, and so I was here a lot. Even as a senior, I would go in to have somebody proof over my paper, because it's really just beneficial to have a second set of eyes. So I think even if you're a wonderful writer, it's a great resource for you to pop in for 10 minutes, have somebody read through your paper, and then by the end of it, maybe you're able to bump up your grade a little bit and feel a little bit more confident in your assignment that you're working with. Another great resource is going to be a career center. So these are the guys who put on job fairs, the internship, scouting opportunities. Some of them have the resume writing here. They'll also have work study information for you. So if you don't really know what you want to go into and study, and you're having a hard time deciding what career you want to go into after you graduate, they'll be able to help you figure that out, so that you can kind of make sure that you're on the right path for your education to help when you do graduate. So even if you don't know what you want to do, I would strongly urge you to go to the Career Center, and then they'll really be able to help you move forward with it. Additionally, they have resume writing centers, which I think are really beneficial. Once you hit hit a university, if you find that you need to find a job, it can be a little bit difficult finding one because you might have a limited work experience, and they're going to be able to really help you create a professional looking resume so that you're able to find a really good job that works well with your school schedule. They're also going to have work study information for you, so if you qualify for work study, they'll be able to give you information on that, which you can use to find a job that works with your school schedule as well as one that's on campus, so you don't have to worry about transportation issues or anything like that. And then later on in your education, they're also going to have internship resources if that's something you decide that you're interested in. The ADA, Americans with Disability Act. This is an absolutely gargantuan topic, and I have made it really concise, so it is not in depth at all. But essentially, Title II and Title III essentially state that public and private schools must provide equal access to post-secondary education for students who qualify or who fall under the ADA. So if you are considered disabled, then the school, because they get federal funding, they are required to make programs accessible to students. Unless there's like some huge monumental financial or administrative burden, or it fundamentally alters the nature of the service, then they are required to make the accommodation. This includes things like ramps into every building so that somebody in a wheelchair can access every point of the university. This includes accepting service animals into courses. This includes maybe somebody who is a translator for ASL. So if somebody's deaf, the school would provide somebody to translate the lectures. If an individual is blind, then they have resources for that. So they have most of the disabilities that I think you guys would see or you would need, the universities have dealt with before. But you have to make sure that you let your university know prior to attending. It makes the transition, and especially that first couple weeks that are already really hectic, it makes it really difficult if you're trying to also finalize all of this paperwork with the school. So once you know you're going to the university, before you move or before you start going, maybe a month or two prior to the start of the semester, let them know. And I've included a little link here that goes into this way more in depth, but it also kind of helps you navigate the unfamiliar pathways to kind of figure out what it is you need to do to make sure that everything's finalized before you start school. Another great center is going to be the tutoring center. So if you're failing a course and you need help in it, or even if it's math or English or something and you're having a hard time with it, I would really recommend that you go to the tutoring center. Most of them have either professional tutors or they have work study individuals, so students who have previously taken the course and who are familiar maybe with the teacher or something like that. They're going to be able to go and work with you through it so that you can get some aid. So it's also a wonderful place to be able to learn good study habits. I had one of my friends who worked at a tutoring center, and she saw a ton of athletes because they were so involved with sports, and because it took over a large majority of their schedule. They didn't really develop really efficient study habits because their time was so limited, and it can be the same way with individuals who have work. You really have a limited amount of time, and so in order to maximize that, you have to be able to have really, really solid habits down to be able to study. So if you happen to be an athlete and you're suffering for grades, you might actually be required to attend here, but I think that it's a wonderful resource for all students, again, especially for those who have work outside of school. It's also a really good place if you want to just sit in a quiet spot and work on homework, but you might have questions. I think it's a really great spot to bring your homework with you, sit there, work on it while you're there, and then if you come up with a question, you can have a tutor come and help you with that. So I think it's a really flexible resource for students who are at varying degrees within their courses. The TRIO programs. This is another very large topic. The TRIO includes 8 different federal programs, and I've included a link here so that you can learn a little bit more information about it. But essentially, TRIO is set up as an outreach program and one that also offers services for individuals who are identified as being from disadvantaged backgrounds. So this includes poverty, maybe low socioeconomic standing, perhaps individuals who are first-generation college students, so your parents haven't attended and their grandparents haven't either, if you have disabilities, and it's set up to kind of help kids starting even in middle school all the way through grad school. It is a huge federal program, and so I'm sure that if you need some kind of aid, there's a TRIO program for you. This does sometimes include financial assistance, but it's going to depend on where you stand and what they classify you as. But it does offer a lot for students, especially if you feel like you've come from a disadvantaged background. I would definitely look into doing TRIO programs. So since we've hit over the 10-minute mark, I'm going to go ahead and cut this video off a little bit. I know it was really vague. I was trying to get through everything pretty quickly, but if you guys do have questions over your resources, every website on the school for each school has a little student resources tab. I would strongly recommend that you go through that. It'll take 10 minutes and you'll learn so much about your university. There's a lot of centers and a lot of resources for you. So if you have questions, universities are set up to be able to help students, especially freshmen who are coming in. So if you have questions or need help with something, there's going to be somebody who's going to be able to help you with it.